Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking about Trevor Lawrence. I really wish that I had more time to do this NFL news. It was okay in the off season, but I really was hoping to stay current this season. But with the Rona, I didn't really even think the season would happen, and it was just, it was a lot. So, but I got some free time now to finally sit down and talk about some NFL items. So one of the stories that has been going around for a minute, I would say even from the beginning of the season, was this idea of Trevor Lawrence ducking the Jets. Now, I don't know if you know me, I don't get into the college stuff until draft season. That's when I really lock in. So I don't know if Trevor has another year of eligibility or what, but I know I've heard some people obviously talk about the Eli Manning scenario where you say, hey, I'm not playing for you. I heard some people recently talking about him just sitting out a year and these different types of things. So I don't know if going back to college is a option for him, but it seems like people are suggesting there's other ways he can duck. Now, a lot of people were saying Joe Burrow shouldn't go to the Bengals, but that was, I would say, much closer to the draft. Now, obviously, the Jets are kind of running away with the first pick, but it could still be somebody else. But that might be why this is starting up early. But to me, it started up so early that I have to believe somebody said something. It might not have been Trevor, but it could be someone in his camp because everybody has a camp. And so somebody might have heard something or told somebody something, and this has been percolating. But either way, if it was like a legit bona fide steamroll by Trevor Lawrence, I feel like he would have came out and said it. Why not? You got all the leverage in the world. But as of now, since he hasn't said anything, I'm just taking this as a suggestion. Now, Burrow, again, had the same suggestion last year. And I'm going to say the same thing I said last year. It's stupid. It's absolutely dumb. Now, we know it's happened. with Eli and some others. But I don't respect it personally. I don't believe in that. I know how people feel about owners. Now, obviously, probably a Jets fan or maybe somebody else. I don't know. But the Bears fans that listen to me, they know how I feel about this stuff. Fans are too crybaby sometimes. They want everything right now and they want it to happen right now. Oh, it's not happening. Fire everybody. And owners can be that way too. Just no patience. And I don't respect that. So owners can come off as the villain a lot of times, and I get that. But what I will say is there's no owner that is actively trying to lose. Like, obviously, and again, I'm not going to talk about tanking in the NFL. I've talked about that before. But in general, we're not running our franchise to never win. Yes, there's people that care about other things, mainly money more than winning. But guess what? I don't think any owner doesn't understand that winning gives you more money. So I don't think anyone's actively trying to have a losing franchise. And so this idea of don't go to the Bengals, they don't know how to take care of you. Don't go to the Jets, they don't know how to take care of you. And look, I'm a Bears fan. There's some people that say a lot of things about our ownership. I don't believe that. I don't believe, there's literally no sense to it. And so, yeah, there's definitely owners that aren't great at football, and they might be a little too meddlesome, but they're not trying to actively hurt anybody. And so if you go in as a person to a losing franchise, which is most likely what happens when you're first overall pick, then you do have a chance to then build something that's obviously not there right now. Some franchises, you have a chance to restore something that used to be there. But either way, you're going into it and you're going with the hand that you're dealt. And that is important. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that's not important. It is more important than people recognize, because people talk like players are just good and bad. They're not. They're products of what's around them. And so, yes, Would you want to hold out for a team that has great offensive weapons or a great offensive line or a really strong defense or a great run game? Like, yes, you would want that, but we can't operate off that. This is what the draft is. You go and you play where you're drafted. Now, again, obviously, as I said, there's been times where that didn't happen. But for the most part, and in my personal philosophy, that's how it has to be. Because if you were to say, whatever it is he does, whatever Trevor employs to make the Jets yield to him, either getting something he wants or just giving up the pick so he goes somewhere else, then what's the end game of that? What's the end game of that? Where or what's the limit, I should say, of that? Where players like, I'm only going, like they pull a James Harden or a Kawhi Leonard. Or no, what was it? Anthony, whoever it was like, I'm only going to LA. Like, what's the end game of that? You have a players like, I'm only playing for Kansas City. I ain't going nowhere else. I'm playing with Pat Mahomes. Don't draft me. I'm not going to play. Like, what's the end game? Now, obviously, everybody's not going to have that leverage, but still, do we want to allow that type of disruption? And you've had it select few times, but that's the exception to the rule. Let's not look at that like it's the norm. And there's a reason that's not the norm, because we can't allow that type of dysfunction in the draft. And so while, yes, you might not go to as great of a situation, like obviously Herbert going to the Chargers with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams would have been different than him going to the Bengals with old AJ Green and Tyler Boyd. Like, yes, that's different, but you gotta play with the hand that you're dealt, and that's how it goes. So, and me personally, I would not suggest that. I would not want that. I don't want to see any semblance of that. The talk was heavy with Joe Burrow, and it went through like planned, and I'm glad it did. Now with Trevor, there's no guarantee, but that's what I would like to see. Now, what are my speculations? I don't think so. I think anything you pull, or I do think there's a chance for the Eli thing. And that's what I thought with Burrow as well, where it's like, hey, behind the scenes, I don't want to play here. And so you work up a trade with somebody and get a nice ransom, and then they get Trevor Lawrence. Like, yes, I can see that, but I don't see him sitting out a year. I don't see him going back to school. I don't see him signing with sports whatever just to be there for a year and make money and wait to the next draft, because like many people said, it's going to be bad teams either way. And I don't think any team, as bad as they might be, is actively trying to get you hurt or, lose. I don't think that. Like, yes, you might not have confidence in how they handle things, but I don't think any team is actively trying to be bad. And so, yes, we would all like to go to winning franchises, but that's not how it goes. You could turn your team into a winning franchise. And so, I don't think outside of maybe a trade of the first pick, anything like that will happen. So that's personally how I'm feeling about it. And I think a lot of it is speculation. There's not a whole lot to go off of right now to say that this is what is actually shaping up to happen. But I mean, look, the Jets, and the crazy thing is the Jets is not like a team that has not been in the playoffs in decades. They were in the playoffs a lot not too long ago. So, again, now if Gase is still there and whatever, I get it. I get it. Especially it's tough because you're in an age where you can see a lot. You can't see everything. Like, you don't know exactly what's going on, but you can see a lot. And obviously with his connections, he could hear a lot. So it's tough to be like, yo, I'm going to here where this is this. And you look at the Jets roster, it's not great either. I mean, none of it's great. And so that is tough. That the cupboard is pretty bare. But I would like to think he's the type of player that will accept that challenge And then, you go give it a try. One thing I will say that I think might be different from some people is that if you play a year and like they're like just really not getting anything around you, they're not like, they keep Gase and they're just doing the same stuff and it's like clear dysfunction and all that. I mean, I would talk with the owner and then I would start thinking about forcing a trade. But I'm not going to do that right now. I think you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. You got to go where you're supposed to go. And then if it's clear that they're just not at all operating like an NFL franchise, then yeah, I'll be okay with that. But that's kind of where I draw it at. So anyway, that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. And thank you for listening.